Hello, in this video we're going to talk about data storage types in R. Now, the simplest type of data storage type is a variable. We're actually going to talk about four storage types: a variable, a vector, a data frame, and a matrix. Let's start with a variable. So if I set a equal to 1, anytime I want to use the value that's stored in A, I can simply call A. So for example, if I said A plus 2, I'd get the answer 3. What if we want to store more than one value in a variable, like a collection of scores on an inventory, for example? Well, that's where a vector comes in, and the way we create a vector is to say some score. So for example, if we say, I don't know, anxiety, pretend these are anxiety ratings from 1 to 5, and we say we want to create a vector, so we say A equals the C function. That's how you create a vector. And let's say the first person was 3, the second person was 1, the third person was 7, and the fourth person was 9. If we call anxiety, we can get access to those values in this format. So that's a vector. To demonstrate what a data frame is, we should create another vector for group. So let's pretend these are anxiety ratings, and we put them through some kind of measure, and the first two people are in a control group, and the second two people are in an experimental group. So we need two values to represent that to the computer. So we'll define the control group as 1, the experimental group as 2. So we need 2 1s and 2 2s. Now, the order that these correspond, your grouping variable and your scores, are very important. So the first 2 people in our scores variable belong to the control group, so we need to put 2 1s first, and the second 2 people belong to our experimental group, so we need to put 2 2s. So let's do that. If I press enter to that, I put a period instead of a comma on the first group variable. So if I press enter to that, we've got our scores variable, we've got our anxiety variable. But how do we add those together so that we can say this particular anxiety score is attached to a person in this particular group? Well, we do that with something called a data frame. And to demonstrate what a data frame is, we should look at a spreadsheet of data. So I've got an example one here, and this is just from SPSS. The actual data isn't important. This is fictitious data, but we've got a grouping variable to tell the computer what group the person was in, so it can separate them, and then a score. If we turn value labels off on this, we can see that the way this is identified or coded is just like we did in R. There's just a 0, a 1, or a 2 that corresponds to what group they're in. And we've got 2 1s and 2 2s. So we now need to bind these 2 columns together effectively and tell it these aren't just 2 separate vectors, they're 2 things that actually correspond. And we do that with a data frame, so let's see how to do that in R. The first thing we need to worry about is that this group variable is just 2 1s and 2 2s. How do we tell it that's a grouping variable? Well, we do something called a factor. So So we're going to say group now equals whatever's already in group. So this is the data. Group equals the factor function, because this is what we want to make a factor, a grouping variable. Factor. What do we want to make the factor out of? Or want to make it out of what's already in group. And what values does this factor apply to? Well, again, we're going to provide a list of values, so we're going to provide a vector of values. We could provide them just as a list, and in this case, because there's only two, that might make sense. But when you got more groups, what you can do is provide a range here. So we're going to say, in this case, the groups equal to whatever is between 1 and 2. The next thing you need to provide is what the labels are. So we're storing the SPSS data sheet that the variables there were just coded as numbers, but they had labels, so we can define what the labels are here for each of our factors. So we're going to say labels equals, we're going to give it another vector, but this time it's going to be a vector of strings, a vector of text options. So we're going to say first variable, because remember the order is important here, so we define number 1 first, so we need to tell it what number 1 is. Number 1 equals control two equals experiment. So we've now created a factor, but we still haven't got this tabular format. To do that, we need to create a data frame. So I'm just going to say anxiety data, and this is our whole table of values. Equals data.frame and now we need to give it the column name that we want to use and the corresponding vector of values. So we're going to say each value for the column group is contained within the group variable, and we want another column for our anxiety scores. So we're going to say each value for the column score is contained within our anxiety variable. Now if we look at our anxiety data frame, we can see we've got this kind of same tabular interface, and you need that for all kinds of procedures in R. Often it'll tell you to give it a data frame and tell you which which out of that data frame is the grouping variable and which is a score variable. So the procedure of making a data frame is you create the grouping variable and the score variable separately, and then you bind them together in this data frame. The last thing we're going to talk about is a matrix. So I'm going to say data matrix. We need to give it a data frame to make it into a matrix, so we're just going to say as.matrix and what do I want to make into a matrix? Well, we want it to be anxiety data. Now if we run that, we see our matrix. Now matrices aren't as intuitive as data frames, and I would probably normally use a data frame if I could, but some procedures just don't accept data frames, so I thought I'd show matrices as well. Anyway guys, that was your quick introduction to data storage types in R. Thanks for watching.